Hello and welcome to a new season on Hive Live and a new Premier League campaign for the Hornets as Watford kick things off against Aston Villa. The omens for the Hornets are good today. Xisco's newly promoted side have won 6 of their previous 10 home league games against Villa, and club captain Troy Deeney has scored in all 4 of his Premier League meetings against them too. Today's visitors, though, will provide a stern test of our Premier League credentials. A forward line of Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings have goals aplenty in them at this level, so Watford's defensive line are sure to be tested. This is the place for all of your build-up to the season opener. This is Hive Live. So hello and welcome back to Vicarage Road on what is a very special day. It's the curtain raiser here at the home of the Hornets. Watford taking on Aston Villa, and Premier League football is back. How long have we waited to be able to say that out loud? So we've got lots to bring you as we build up to kick-off. We're going to be taking you through the team's pre-season preparations, which did include that trip to the England training base at St George's Park. We're also going to be hearing from the likes of Troy Deeney, William Troost-Ekong and Cucho Hernandez, as well, of course, as our head coach, Xisco Munoz, who'll be telling us just how excited he is about the start of this new Premier League campaign in front of a packed crowd here at Vicarage Road too. So we're all very excited. I'm sure you are as well, but that's nothing compared to the excitement levels of my guest this afternoon, who's here with me on Hive Live, having been with us through all 50 of the Championship fixtures last season. I think it's safe to say, actually, we've upgraded him now from guest to official co-host, the former Hornet striker Tommy Mooney.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that welcome.
Yeah,
co-host.
I know.
Sounds much better than guest, doesn't it? Almost sounds permanent.
Premier League co-host. Pretty flashy, eh?
I'll take that.
Yeah. Well, good to have you back. How's your summer been?
Been really good. Obviously, we look forward to the first game, but when it's at Vicarage Road with all of the supporters in and back in the Premier League, it's going to be a great day. Hopefully we get the right result. Yeah,
all the ingredients to be a good one. I mean, we've managed to avoid the top 6 on the opening day, but that's not to say, we've mentioned it already, they're going to be a big test, aren't they, Villa, today, with or without Jack Grealish?
Yeah, they'll be a huge test. They've consolidated in the Premier League over a couple of years, and they've spent wisely and then received the money for Jack, and I'm sure they'll spend some more. So they're definitely a force in the Premier League this year.
For us, though, I mean, we talked about the Premier League last season, and is it surreal that now it's actually here today?
I think, the plan was to come back for this day, wasn't it? To achieve that in the first year, and there were some sticky bits last season. We know that, which culminated in the promotion party, which was fabulous for all of us, including at Hive Live. So today's that reward, and the lads have. Everybody works hard in pre-season, whatever division you're in, but looking forward to the Premier League is a special thing.
Yeah, you mentioned the promotion party there, and it was fabulous, but having to do everything virtually, how good is it to have the fans back here today in the flesh, a packed out Vicarage Road? That noise is going to be incredible, isn't it, when the players come out?
It certainly will. I mean, the hairs on the back of our necks went up when the players ran out to warm up, didn't they, last season? And there was only 2,000 in the stadium. So I genuinely can't wait to see it. Having walked through the stadium 50 times or so last year when it was empty and quite eerie, I'm really looking forward to seeing the atmosphere and hearing those Watford supporters singing their songs.
Yeah, I mean, even when you walked in this morning, there were a few yellow shirts around, weren't there? Was there something extra in the air, would you say?
I think it's just like a traditional match day. I think that the supporters, it's not just the game for the supporters, it's the whole day. Their preparation is the same as the players quite often. And just walk into the stadium for some of those supporters, I know they've missed that camaraderie. So I think from waking up this morning, it's the Premier League back at Watford.
We say there about the fans and the way we've talked about this moment a lot. I suppose for the players, they've been preparing for it day in, day out. So what's it like when you look back on your playing days, when you finally hear the match days here and you're building up in those last few hours? What kind of thoughts are you getting?
Well, everybody looks forward to that first game of the season. Pre-season games are very different. There's nothing on them. Nobody likes to play in friendly games. But you do realise that you're doing that for your fitness levels. It's purely that. And to get a bit of touch back with the football. So the players, having had a very different pre-season, because nobody's been abroad, which is not the norm. So, the training camp at St George's brings that a little bit more accustomed feeling to a pre-season camp. but certainly different. So I think that there'll be an awful lot of things, and we've seen already with the Brentford result, there'll be things that happen differently at the beginning of this Premier League.
Yeah, this is it. You do always get some quite freakish results. As a player, is that something that you're aware of as well when you're going into that first game? You don't quite know exactly, not just the opposition, but also yourselves, how you're going to click on that first game?
I think from a player's point of view, I used to think it took you 4 games to get your match fitness, because, like I say, friendly games are never the pace of a Championship or a Premier League game. So I think it takes 4 games. So you often get strange results in those four games. I've witnessed them and been a part of them. So I think it's a great opportunity within those 4 games to take points that other people think you won't get.
Well, this is it. You say 4 games, but you want to try and get those points on the board as soon as possible, because in the Premier League, playing catch-up, as we know, unfortunately, from the relegation season, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I think it's certainly better for a coach. So Xisco will appreciate not having the midweek games every week, so he can work on his team. And with players coming in and going out this season, he might not know what that best team is just yet, and it's only when the league season starts will he start to make those decisions.
You touched on Brentford as well on Friday evening. I suppose there is always that extra excitement, anticipation around promoted sides, but it's a little bit different for Watford, isn't it, when they came down and came back so quickly?
I think most people in the Premier League will class us as a Premier League team because we've had such a long period in the Premier League. For Brentford, it's been 74 years or something like that. So the hysteria is natural around them. This is more of the norm for Watford players, Watford supporters, and certainly the staff and the stadium. So, yeah, I think it's not going to have as many surprises for Watford as it would for certainly Brentford, perhaps Norwich. But nevertheless, once the ball rolls at 3 o'clock this afternoon, it all goes out of the window. It's just 11v11.
As a whole, touching it already, due to the COVID protocols and a few other reasons, our pre-season has looked a little bit different to the way it has in previous recent seasons. But what have you made of the way they have handled the circumstances? Do you think we have made the best of what has been a bit of a difficult situation? And
that's all you can do. I genuinely think that the longer they stayed at St James's Park,
St George's,
St George's Park, it almost builds a team spirit, and the players, going to bed on an evening and then having breakfast the next morning all together. That's the old school way that people would go abroad and in training camps. We would invariably, with Graham Taylor, it'd be in Scandinavia or Holland, and we'd spend a week or 10 days away, and you'd play 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
It wasn't lovely. It was hard work. We were up at 7 o'clock for a run every morning with GT.
Yeah.
So it was hard, but you knew it was necessary, because, like you say, you don't hit the ground running on that first league game. It takes a little bit of time. So the harder you work in those circumstances, the easier it is once the season starts.
I mean, I know it might have only been Burton, but I suppose psychologically, just having those few days away in a completely different area would have helped as well. Do you think in some ways, taking the camp away from our usual training base?
I think because they're together 24 hours a day, relationships build quicker, because you're obviously spending more time with each other. And yes, in an ideal world, you'd go abroad and you'd play foreign teams, because the foreign teams like to play against the English teams. So the tempo of the games is invariably higher than it would be for an English team playing an English team. We've even seen a Premier League team playing a Premier League team in last week's game against Crystal Palace. That's never ever done. But I think they've made the best of the circumstances, as has everybody else. So everybody's got to prepare for it in the same way. And like I say, once the season starts, everybody forgets that pre-season. It doesn't matter whether you've won every game or lost every game. There's no points at stake in pre-season. They start today.
I suppose the other thing is, as well, whilst we will put a lot of importance and focus on the time they spent at St George's and at the training ground since they've been back together as a group, your modern day player tends to look after their fitness a little bit more in their real down period in June. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so, because, with social media and everything like that, in years gone by, certainly during my era, once the last game of the season finished, nobody's seen you again until perhaps a pre-season game. So that would be 6, 8, 10 weeks later. With social media and the way the game has changed, it's certainly a lot shorter. I was one of those that I'd always give myself 2 or 3 weeks off, where I didn't do anything, and I didn't play golf at the time, so literally no exercise, and then I'd fire into it because I didn't want to be embarrassed on day one of pre-season. So I'd always have 2 weeks of solid work at home.
So you were one of the ones which was quite comfortable with the weigh-in when it came eventually?
In my earlier years, I might not have been so comfortable with it, but certainly in the latter years, yeah. Ironically, the older I got, the better shape I was in. So I was quite lucky like that. But then, depends what injuries are happening through a close season. Predominantly the players that have been injured will work all the way through anyway. So everybody has a different schedule. I didn't mind the scales. I was all right.
Yeah, so for you then, like a fine wine, just getting better with age. But who was trying to avoid those scales on the first day? Who wasn't comfortable with the weigh-in?
No, we did have a few. It would be extremely unfair for me to say because nobody was allowed to know what everybody else's weight was.
Right.
You just knew if they were allowed to have bread at lunch. The ones that didn't have bread at lunch, you knew they were overweight.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're serving up any bread at this training ground in the present day. And speaking of players actually who do look as if they're coming back really sharp, really in good shape, our club captain, Troy Deeney.
Yeah, he's worked hard. I know it's similar experience to myself, and the year in the Premier League, I didn't play an awful lot of football that season, so I never had a day off through the summer. And the year I came back, my last season at Watford, scored 20 odd goals. Troy's wants to do exactly the same thing this year. He feels he's got a point to prove, and we've seen he's come back looking really fit, really strong, and he's hungry to score goals back in the Premier League, and that is good for Troy Deeney, and it's great for Watford Football Club.
Yeah, I imagine it would have been real motivation to him last season. I mean, he did do his bit in the first chunk of this season, didn't he? And he sort of eventually managed to sneak back in at the end. But a huge part of that, he wasn't a part of the promotion campaign. So I imagine it really whet his appetite, probably.
It's really difficult, particularly. Yes, he's a club captain, but he's one of the stronger guys and personalities in the dressing room. They had to cope with that dressing room without him as a player. I know last season he put just as much hard work in as he did on the pitch, off the pitch, because he had to still do his captain's job. It's not an easy thing to do, to watch your teammates playing every week and know that you can't do it, and that'll make him mentally stronger.
New season, new kit. What do we make of it?
I'm happy as long as it's black shorts, black socks. I'm happy. So yeah, I quite like the new kit. It's a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
Not for the traditionalist.
I was going to use that word because you are one, aren't you?
I am.
Yes.
You're trying to get me into trouble here, Emma, aren't you? No, I like the plainer colours, but the stripes across. Earlier on, those horizontal stripes wouldn't have done me any good, but later on I'd have been okay.
Well, Cisco, I think, has been giving it the nod of approval in the promotion video for actually the red kit is nice, isn't it? That's gone down particularly well, I think.
Yeah, I think the contrast of the colours is nice, whether it's the red or the white or the traditional yellow kit. Like I say, as long as it's got black shorts and black socks playing here at home, Vicarage Road, I'm happy. Do
the players care, do you think?
Yes.
Can it really affect you on that first day? If you're wearing a kit you're not a fan of?
I wore some kits here where you think, I don't really want to leave the dressing room in this, but you get used to it. And especially these days, they've got so many colours of their boots, they try and match them up. So for me, with some of the issues, I had to have everything in line. I don't know what I would have done with some of the kit colours now with matching it with boots. But no, it does matter to the players. They want to look sharp. The better you look, the better you feel, and the better you work.
It's true. What was your favourite kit in your playing days?
My original Watford one, the one that I signed in '94, I think, Hummel kit. Coincidentally, that had black shorts and black socks.
Ah, now I see where that comes from. Any kit, though, that you blame for a barren spell in your career? I mean, you never had barren spells, did you?
Oh, if only that was true, Emma. I had far too many barren spells. No, I think most of the kits I got an alright. I like the away one, the Inter Milan one, the red and black stripes. Good memories down the road at Luton in that one. There wasn't too many kits. Even some of the stranger kits I quite liked.
Yeah. Well, new kits then. New signings as well. A few ins, a few outs. What have you made of the general picture so far? I think we can see a graphic now As there's quite a few names there to recall.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of younger ones that I don't envisage playing much part in the early stages of the season in Barr and Pollock. But then you've got the experience of Fletcher, King, Rose, and then a couple of the new guys. I've seen Dennis and Hernandez at Crystal Palace last week, as well as Kushka. So yeah, look, early promising signs. It's almost a contrast though, because the very few have got Premier League experience.
Yes, although that could be a good thing if we're looking at the way Brentford surprised a few people, if we're trying to freshen things up and make sure that people don't have Watford's number. It's good to have these unfamiliar faces inside, no? Yeah,
I think so. It's down to how the individual adapts, because the Premier League is a hugely oiled machine, and it is all enveloping at times, and it's how players react to that by seeing, in the Championship it is very heavily covered through the media. It's nothing compared to the Premier League. So whether you've got experience of it before or not, it's just how the individual performs. And particularly the lads who've come in from abroad, they'll be desperate to make their Premier League debut, because it is revered throughout the world.
You mentioned almost everyone there, so well done, because there's quite a few names. But is there anyone in particular that you're looking forward to see how they adapt to a Watford shirt in the Premier League?
I think I was really impressed with the Tebo last week at Crystal Palace. Kushka came in and played probably the last 15 or 20 minutes of the game. And there was an awful lot of pace with Dennis and Hernandez up front. Sarr was quiet, but down the left-hand side with Dennis, he was exciting. Ran out of steam after an hour, which is understandable because he was heavily involved. But at times last week against Crystal Palace, there was some promising signs. I think we need to steady the ship a little bit. But like I say, it's going to be probably September before we get going at 100 mile an hour.
Yeah, well, you say 100 mile an hour, there's a lot of attacking threat, isn't there? Does that say about the way Xisco's looking at this season, that we're not going to be too conservative and actually maybe go for this a little bit?
Yeah, I think there will be games where you can do that, and you can go and attack teams. But you also know that some of the best players in the world play in the Premier League, and when you're playing against them, I think it's quite foolish to go out all-out attack. So defensively, the shape that's worked on the training ground is going to be vital this year. They need to know whatever position they're playing, where their support is, and where they need to support other players, because there will be awfully long times this season where we're out of possession. Complete contrast to the Championship last season, where we had possession for 60 and 70% in most games. So that'll be very different. It's how they adapt to that.
Well, time now to hear from a player who will very much be part of the first team squad for this Premier League campaign. That's Cucho Hernandez. Having joined the Hornets back in 2017, he has spent some time on loan, but this week he sat down to speak to Hive Live exclusively and tell us now how he is ready to establish himself as a first team regular here in WD18.
Now, we're just a matter of days away from what could be your first Premier League game here at Vicarage Road. Does it feel like you've been waiting a long time for this opportunity?
Sí, claramente. Hace casi 5 años que pertenezco al Watford. La verdad que tenía muchas ganas de poder estar aquí, de jugar la Premier y de poder disfrutar de los aficionados. Y nada, tengo muchas ganas de disfrutar esta temporada y que todo salga bien.
From what we've seen in pre-season, you're a player who can really get the crowd going. Do you like to entertain and excite the supporters?
Bueno, me alegra saber de que he alegrado a cierta gente de la afición esa pretemporada, pero eso no es nada porque no sirve. Ahora lo realmente importante empieza el sábado y espero demostrar lo mismo o mucho más de lo que he demostrado hasta ahora.
So far you've played as a striker, a winger and also in a deeper position. What do you believe your best position is?
Yo quiero jugar. Yo prefiero jugar y ya está. Si me toca por de extremo, de delantero o media punta, donde sea, en cualquier posición de adelante, me gusta desempeñarme, así que donde me toque trataré de hacerlo mejor.
So in the last 2 years you've had loans with Mallorca and Getafe. How important is it to now settle down and prove yourself here at Watford?
Ya, no, muy importante. Como decía anteriormente, estoy muy feliz porque no es de solo ahora, sino que hace un par de años que quiero tener la experiencia de estar aquí y ahora tengo la oportunidad, así que estoy muy emocionado, centrado y con ganas de hacer las cosas bien.
Aston Villa this weekend, how much are you looking forward to potentially making your Premier League debut here at Vicarage Road on Saturday?
Muchísima ilusión, de verdad que estoy muy emocionado y estoy con mucha ilusión de poder estar el sábado. Lógicamente, si depende de lo que juegue y tal, estaré disponible para el míster lo que él necesite.
Well, as he said there, he's very excited to be in a Watford shirt this afternoon. I think a lot of us are looking forward to seeing him. I think we know now that he will be on the bench today, but are you looking forward to seeing him at some stage and what he can do out there, Tommy?
He was very promising last week at Crystal Palace. I've only seen him in the one game. Obviously, it's strange because he's been a Watford player for quite some time, but been out and had 3 loans in Spain. So, yeah, he'd be really looking forward to making his debut, let alone in the Premier League for Watford. So, yeah, very exciting. Certainly put himself about, covered an awful lot of mileage playing as a 9 last week at Crystal Palace, and looks like he likes to rough up a few defenders, and I quite like that. Yeah. So looking forward to seeing him.
I suppose the thing is, when he did sign in July 2017, so he has had to be patient, and that can go one or two ways, because you really want to take that opportunity when you finally get it, but in the same breath, I imagine it can really get in your head as well. So you just need to make sure you channel it in the right way. Yeah,
I think he'll feel like he's got a point to prove. Certainly going out and playing in different leagues suggests that the club think he's got a future here because he's gaining experience while he wasn't quite ready to play for Watford. But now there certainly looks to be an opportunity for him to bed his way into the team and score some goals, because he is lively and he looks like he wants to be involved.
Yes, he's one of the many players who'll want to look in today. Of course, that decision, though, does lie with Xisco Munoz. We're going to be talking about today's 11 very shortly. But, of course, Xisco was the man that oversaw our promotion back to the Premier League, which was confirmed back in May. So time to hear from him now as he talks about incredible team spirit in that dressing room. It did see us finish as runners-up in the Championship, and how that is going to be key again as we try to enjoy another successful campaign in the Premier League.
I've seen so many pundits and columnists and various different media people predicting that Watford will be relegated this season. Are they underestimating you?
Who say? No, it's you know what happened this season. This season we know what we have amazing challenge, no? We know, and we know what we need to work very hard for try arrive in our goal. We know. We need improving, we need keep going, and we will see. We have time. We have time for work.
What will make the difference? What's the big thing that will help Watford survive this season?
Stay together. The most important is I don't know, you know about our team spirit. It's sure we have difficult moments, sure we have good moments, but the most important always we have together things, and always no stop. If we are together, we are more power. This is the good things.
Well, team spirit, it was a huge part of what Watford did last season, ultimately what saw them be so successful with the promotion. How much of a challenge, though, do you think it was for Xisco to make sure that was still the case once they'd all been away doing their own thing for a month?
I think he was so successful at changing the mood and the feeling in the dressing room last season that he'll know what's required to do it again. There's new players coming in, they've got to fit in and integrate themselves with that team spirit and that team ethos that eventually got us promoted. So he'll know how to combat that. He's a very experienced man and been in an awful lot of dressing rooms. So I think that is going to be the key this year, of sticking together no matter what happens. Don't get carried away with the highs of a really good win, and don't get too low when you get a defeat on a Saturday afternoon. So that's going to be his toughest challenge this season, certainly, alongside picking his starting 11, because you could argue the stronger the squad has got, the more difficult it is to pick the team.
When you talk about them sticking together, though, and that's something they said a few times there does make you wonder if he's saying that out loud because the fans are included in that as well, do you think?
I think, and again, one of the reasons why this season is going to be so different to last season is last season the tempo at times was quite slow. You can't have that slow tempo with the supporters in the stadium, because the supporters want the ball in the box and they want to see goals, which is great, so do I. But last year the players had a little bit of leeway where they could go pass the ball sideways or backwards more often than they will, certainly with these Vicarage Road fans, because we all know what they're like and what they need to keep them happy. So yeah, it'll be different, and the players have got to adapt to that. You know, there's plenty of players in this team today that haven't seen Vicarage Road with a capacity crowd in it. It's going to be a fabulous experience for some of them. We'll have to wait and see how they react to it.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a moment, the impact of fans being back. But just with Xisco, the players seem to love playing for him. You know him personally. Can you see why that is?
I think it's just his personality and how he thinks about the people around him. He sent me a really nice birthday text on Wednesday, so you know, I can imagine that's what he's like with his players. He brings a smile to his players' face, and every footballer likes to feel that they're wanted, and he's certainly managed that with the players in the dressing room.
That's so thoughtful. When you think he's 3 days out from a Premier League campaign, there he is sending you a little birthday message.
I texted him back in Spanish and he hasn't replied, so I don't know whether that's because he's busy or my Spanish is really bad.
There is a second part to the Xisco interview, so we'll get to that now. And a recurring theme that he has mentioned consistently since he arrived here in December is how much he is looking forward to coaching this team and having them play in front of you, the fans, here at Vicarage Road.
It's going to be so good, isn't it, having the fans back at Watford? What's that going to mean to you and the team?
I can't wait this moment. You know, I want to stay with the fans. We lose too much time together the last season, and only I can say I want in these games when we play at home, we have a very good atmosphere. We need them. We need always to try to give a very good push up, because with our fans, sure, it's more difficult. The people come for the win the games. No, I need with the fans with us. It's important give all the maximum support. And in the first game, I'm sure is full. The stadium is. I need everyone coming with very good mood and enjoy the situation and try to help our players and our amazing goal, because this season we have amazing goal. As it's important, we have a connection with the fans more and never. And this season we need them, and this is the moment for have a very good atmosphere for have a strong when we play at home.
It will be interesting to see what impact the fans have, because a couple of the boys, they said on camera to us last season that they had kind of got used to a crowd not being in here. So hopefully it would only be a good thing hearing that noise and none of them get, you know, a little bit irked by it. I
think the ego of a footballer needs a crowd, and that's why, you know, I tip my hat to the players that got promoted last year. Every footballer in the country, they managed so well in such difficult circumstances. I thrived on the crowd. I needed a crowd in the I never gave my best in a reserve game, although I didn't play too many of those, I'm going to be honest. It was only coming back from injury. You need that rapport with the supporters, and it's almost like a pat on the back every time you make a good pass or you have a shot, or certainly when you score a goal. And footballers are no different to everybody else.
It works both ways as well, though, doesn't it? Because even when you go behind as well, you probably need that kick a little bit too, don't you?
Absolutely. And we said earlier, you know, you don't go sideways and backwards if you're losing the game with a crowd in the stadium. You get the ball in the box, and then you have a little ruck in there, whatever it takes. You just try and your best to put the ball in the back of the net, and you know it'll certainly be a quicker tempo. The players will need to be fitter this year than they were last, because the tempo will be much higher with supporters in the stadium. That's an absolute given. With the addition of the Premier League as well. Yeah, and being out of possession more is harder work than being in possession. So the fitness levels of the players, I know it's a big part for Xisco, of the fitness levels and the team spirit. And if both of those are high, then you've got a great chance of succeeding. Very similar to the best managers that I work for.
Well, hopefully this crowd this afternoon will have plenty to cheer about. Time now to hear from our club captain, Troy Deeney, who's very excited to get this new campaign underway.
In that moment, you look back and you could you count your players and say, right, I'm going to war with these other 10 men, 11 including yourself, obviously, and it's all about knowing that you've all put the work in to get to this moment. No one's cheated, no one's paid some money to get this ticket to play. Everyone's put the work in, and this is the best 11 that's going to take on the 11 across from you. It's a very surreal moment just before you walk out. It's always laughs and jokes, and then the ref will kind of go, right guys, we're going. And as he turns, you just feel everyone's atmosphere change. Everyone goes like game time. It's like an instant switch like that. So there's a video that was just doing the rounds of me having some fun with a mascot to Virgil van Dijk. And it's like, if you'd have paid more money, you'd have been with him kind of thing, as a joke. Because I don't think kids pay, but they shouldn't do anyway. But that's another subject. And but then as soon as the ref goes, right, let's go, you see mine and Virgil's face change, it's game time. Now, it was laughing and joking, but now we're ready to work, and that's what I don't think you can really translate to people unless you're in that moment.
That's really interesting, that moment that switches where you might be laughing and joking when you're in the tunnel with each other and suddenly the referee starts walking. Do you remember the same?
Yeah, honestly, one of the things that I miss from not playing anymore is the tunnel. I used to love it. It was not so much, it wasn't like a Vieira and Keane thing in the tunnel, although that happened a few times. It is, for a professional footballer, that's where you go from nice guy to work mode. And Micah Hyde in my era used to say, let's go to work. And it essentially was that. You're just going to work with people watching you work.
And then Robbo sees red, that's it.
It was like somebody calm Robbo down. He was like a toddler on a leash.
This is what I
used to let him off over the white line.
He was the first person that came to my head when Troy started saying that there and how you can switch. I thought that was it. That's where the red mist comes and Robbo's in the zone.
We'd take turns with trying to keep Robbo calm. I think we said that last season a few times.
Right, turn our attention then to today's game and Aston Villa. They've had a pretty good transfer window, haven't they? Which is strange to say when you think they've lost their talisman, really, but they've spent the money well.
No, they have. It's an excellent football club. Having worked for them for 8 years or so, I know the ins and outs of it. And yes, losing Jack, it's a huge amount of money. I think it was a huge mistake from whoever gave him the contract to put in a 100 million clause, because it wasn't long before not the best players in the country are going to be 100 million quid. So that was a huge error. But
do you think he's a £100 million player, just whilst we're on that topic?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. Yeah, I worked with him for a long time when he was younger, and we still live quite close together. So not so much now he's gone to Manchester, but I think he could be certainly one of the best players in the country. Losing him is going to be massive. Although having said that, there's always some players in the dressing room that think no matter how well I play, Jack's going to get all of the credit and all of the plaudits. So they'll be pleased he's gone. And the other players that look to Jack to change a game haven't got that anymore. Having said that, they've spent very, very well this time around. Over the last couple of years, they spent a lot of money in their first season on very average players. In the last 2 years, I think they're building a very good squad. I
suppose this is it. There's a vacancy now, isn't there, for a new fan's favourite? And there's going to be a number of players that want to fill that. Yeah, and the Villa supporters are just like everybody else. They like to be excited by their players in possession of the ball. I don't think there's too many can do it like Jack does it. But like you say, some of those Villa players that were perhaps in his shadow will now be thinking, right, if he's gone for 100 million quid, then what can I do? Emi Buendia, great acquisition, as is Ashley Young. What do you make of him going there? Yeah, very strange. It was a late call, wasn't it? I don't think we'll see the best of Ashley Young in a Villa shirt, but certainly with Ings signing and Buendia we've seen last year, he was one of the best players in the Championship, so we know how good, and very similar style, loves in possession of the ball, loves creating opportunities for others to score goals, perhaps should take more chances himself and score more goals, similar to Jack.
So yeah, they're very exciting going forward defensively, but you can get at them.
Yeah, with that, they've had a couple of changes in their coaching hierarchy, and that John Terry's no longer with them. Do you expect their style to change very much at all this season, or do you think it'll be a Villa side that looks pretty familiar, but with perhaps a few different personalities in there?
Their style will have to change without Grealish. It's as simple as that, because wherever he was, when he asked for the ball, they gave him it. They're now going to have to develop into a team, and that's going to be it'll be interesting to see how they develop this season, Aston Villa, because now the possession is going to be spread out amongst the team, whereas Jack probably had 25-30% of Villa's possession of the ball was with the ball at his feet. Now that's going to be different. I think Ings is a really good signing for Aston Villa, and Watkins.
To have Watkins as well, it's frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really good front two. Both know the English leagues. They've played them throughout. So yeah, they'll be really tough. They'll score goals in most games, Aston Villa, but like I say, they can concede them too. I don't think they're as clever at the back as they are going forward.
They probably will have quite lofty ambitions then, won't they, this season? I mean, they were flirting with the idea of a European space, weren't they, for a big chunk of last season?
Yeah, I think Villa's always one of those clubs where you expect them, because of the success that they've had many, many years ago, you expect them to rise quite quickly. So, yeah, outside of Aston Villa, I don't think too many people will be expecting them to be top six.
We've not got long, but just enough time to run through the all-important team news. I think, Tommy, you've got the 11 there as well. So for you, what sticks out today, and what do you think of the system that Xisco's going for? Any surprises in there? Is this roughly how you expected it to look at this
stage?
I
think it'll be very, very similar formation and setup to how they achieved promotion last year. Perhaps a little bit surprising that there's no captain and Troy Deeney in there. So perhaps Dennis playing as the number 9 role, and with Kabasele, Troost-Ekong and Cathcart in the team, one of those will probably play at right back. Cucho played really well in the last 15 minutes at Crystal Palace last week. He's obviously done enough training to get in the team. And Sarr and Sema. As long as King Ken's in, I'm happy.
Yeah, and Backman in goal.
Yeah, he's had a busy summer.
He has.
Certainly busier summer than Ben had. So he's obviously done well enough got his fitness levels right. We always used to say the goalkeepers could come at the back of the running groups, but I don't think it's like that anymore. Some goalkeepers now are at the front, and they certainly look after themselves an awful lot better. But yeah, it's a strong bench. It's a strong starting 11, but it has to be in the Premier League.
It's a special day because we are back in the Premier League, but it's also a really special day here at the home of the Hornets because it is the Graham Taylor match day, so it's bound to be an emotional one. I mean, it's an emotional one because of the football, but off the pitch as well. He's remembered so fondly, isn't he, by both these clubs?
Yeah, he is. He was fabulous spells, 2 spells at both clubs. He gave me my very first professional contract at Aston Villa, so I see the both sides of it, and I think it's great from the club to make today's game the Graham Taylor match day. I think it's fabulous, and both sets of supporters adore the man.
Yeah, I don't know if you can give a black and white answer to this, but given the different sizes and scales of either club, where do you think he was most successful? Villa or Watford?
Well, Villa will argue that the success that they had, and the year that both the gaffer and I left Aston Villa in 1990, they finished in second in the first division. So finishing second in the Premier League or the top flight is a massive achievement. But for me, what he did at Watford is second to none. It was exceptional in both spells.
Well, here is an impossible question. What result would he have wanted from today's game?
A Watford win.
Do you think?
100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed we can deliver for the great GT. Right, well that brings our pre-match show to a close. Thank you, Tommy. Here we are, starting off a new campaign. Great to have you back with us. And audio commentary is free today to all Watford fans. That will be via the club's official website. So all the information you can see there is at the bottom of your screens. Also, stay tuned to the club's YouTube channel a little bit later on this evening. Hive Live Extra will be back. So we'll be bringing you all the analysis and reaction from today's game, and that will include match highlights. So hopefully a few Watford goals to show you. So final thoughts from you, Tommy? Feeling confident? What would be success today?
I think getting a point on the board would be success today. Aston Villa are a really strong side, and we're still coming to terms with the ins and outs, plus playing in a different division to what we were in last season. So I think if we get a point on the board, I'll be happy. 3 points, I'll be over the moon.
Okay. We'll go for 3, shall we? But yes, at this stage, I think a point would be a very positive start. So I think that's it from us here in the studio. I think the last thing to say is enjoy the game.